Hello, everyone. Tonight we are standing in the middle of a warm prehistoric valley, one that smells like wet leaves fungus and a strange kind of sweat you can't quite place. The ground is shaking just slightly, not enough to alarm you, yet, but enough that your feet register something big moving below. Something methodical, something ancient. You probably won't survive. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And hey, drop your location and what time it is right now in the comments. I want to see where in the world you're watching from. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You shuffle forward, bare toes sinking into warm, spongy dirt, still dark under a navy twilight. All around the forest groans and exhales thick ferns, dripping dew branches creaking with the weight of unseen creatures. You don't hear them yet, but you feel them. Something's digging. Ahead, a ridge of soil is rising inch by inch, like the earth itself is taking a deep breath. But it isn't the earth, it's the work of something with claws, massive claws, and the scent. A combination of sulfur-rotting vegetation and that warm-blooded musk large animals can't help but leave behind. You step closer. Mist clings to your legs like old cobwebs, and your ears catch a dull, rhythmic thud. Whump, whump, whump. Not fast, not panicked, just deliberate, like someone beating a slow war drum with a scoop of clay. That's when you see it, a long-backed, low-slung dinosaur hauling soil with terrifying precision. Its head is narrow, not in a predatory way, but in a design-for-shoveling kind of way. Its front claws are massive, curved like garden trowels made for giants, and it works in silence. Behind it, the earth piles upward into a growing dome. That's no burrow. That's a statement. Historians still debate whether these mound makers were more closely related to hadrosaurs or a strange lineage of basal theriophorans. What's certain is that they built like termites on steroids. Some of the ancient soil towers they left behind stretched the length of modern-day trucks and stood higher than African elephants. You crouch to feel the dirt. It's warm. Not just from the sun, from below. Something's been fermenting literally. These creatures use layers of compost vegetation and dung to generate heat. Incubators powered by decomposition. Gross, yeah. Effective, absolutely. The mound stirs. A tail the size of a canoe drags a trench behind it. Somewhere nearby, others are working too, you just can't see them. Not yet. The forest plays tricks with sound. What seems far off is actually right beside you. What you think is wind might be breath, and what you assume is harmless. Well, you know how that usually goes. One odd fact: termite mounds in modern Africa have been found to influence local climate patterns. Now imagine something 10 times that scale. These prehistoric mounds acted like little weather modifiers, retaining heat, redistributing moisture, and drawing in prey insects. They didn't just house life, they shaped it. You're not alone in the valley. Other animals avoid the builders, giving wide berth to the moving dirt domes. There's a reverence here, like everyone agrees whatever's happening, don't mess with it. The sky shifts to bruised pink, and the morning chorus begins. Bird-like shrieks echo through the canopy, followed by the hoot of some feathered predator far off. You sit oddly comforted by the thumping rhythm of dirt on dirt. There's a peace in it. Like listening to your neighbor hammer away on a DIY project that might someday save a life. Then something stops. You freeze. The digging halts all at once. Every claw, every movement like they've been cued by some silent conductor. The forest is dead quiet again. Even the wind holds its breath. You crouch low behind a fern. Something's changed and your skin knows it before your mind does. A rustle, no too sharp. Then a low call, half growl, half vibration. The builders resume. But slower, more careful. And now, as if rehearsed, several of them emerge from behind trees and shadowed gullies, each dragging plant matter toward the central mound. This is not solo work anymore. It's a coordinated build. An orchestra of dirt. Beneath your feet, you can feel the layers deepen, peat dung, moss, mud. All of it packed with dinosaur precision into the rounded sides of the dome. A fortress not just for shelter, but for generations. This is legacy architecture. They don't look like your idea of architects. Their skin is lumpy, patterned in muted earthen tones: ochre bark, brown, wet moss, green. If you saw one on a hiking trail, you'd think someone left a boulder in the middle of the path until it moved. And yet their behavior ridiculously specific. They tuck leaves into cracks, sweep tunnels clean, and seem to argue over where the drainage groove should go. You catch one smacking another gently with its tail, as if to say, "No, Bob, we tried that last season and it flooded the nest." You laugh, softly. You've seen construction crews with less discipline. No bones litter the area. No stray teeth. Whatever these dinosaurs are, they clean up after themselves, or they bury their mistakes. Both possibilities are unsettling. You hear a rustle again, this time behind you. You don't turn around, because that's not your story tonight. Your story is down there, inside the mound. The next morning, you wake to the sound of shoveling, not metal on stone, but claw on earth. It has a weight to it. Not frantic, not careless, just relentless. Like someone digging their way into forever. You push aside a screen of damp ferns and see it again, the creature. The same one from the night before, now clearer in the early light. Its torso is wide, muscular, almost tank-like. A thick tail sways behind it like a pendulum made of meat and bone. Its skull tapers to a squared-off beak, and its shoulders rise and fall with every stroke of those massive claws. They're not raptor claws. They're not designed for slicing or slashing. They're built for moving the planet. You've probably seen construction backhoes. Now picture one that breathes and occasionally grunts like it's annoyed by gravity. It digs in slow arcs, turning its body with each movement, almost dancing with the dirt. Every few minutes it stops to sniff the air, head raised, nostrils wide as if checking some unseen blueprint. Then it resumes. Dirt flies behind it in symmetrical piles. There's almost something meditative about it. You could watch this all day. And well, you do. Modern scientists have argued over whether these mound-building dinosaurs were solitary or lived in complex colonies. Some say the evidence points to lone engineers with massive territories. Others insist they were like primitive beavers, collaborative, territorial, and addicted to modifying their environment. Historians still debate whether these soil fortresses were just egg incubators or multi-purpose sanctuaries for food storage, shelter, and maybe even social rituals. No one agrees, but the dirt never lies. Today, the mound has grown taller than the creature itself. You spot others in the distance now, smaller ones, probably juveniles, watching and mimicking, scooping clumsily at patches of earth like toddlers playing with wet sand. It's adorable. If your definition of adorable includes a baby the size of a vending machine, one of them sneezes, the others scatter. You laugh. The adult doesn't flinch. It keeps working, slowly pivoting toward the southern slope of the mound. That's where it begins digging inward, boring into its own creation with deliberate intent. You creep closer. Inside, the light fades fast. The walls are lined with layers of compressed vegetation packed so tightly it's almost rubbery. The smell, less compost, more warm tea mixed with mushroom broth. Cozy if you're into that kind of thing. You place a hand on the tunnel wall and it's hot. Not burning, but noticeably warm. This isn't just storage, it's thermal engineering. And here's your historical fact of the day. Some extinct reptiles used microbial decay inside nesting mounds to maintain optimal egg temperatures without ever sitting on them. Think of it as geothermal parenting. The same process that rots a banana into a puddle can also bring new life into the world. Mother Nature's weird like that. You crawl a little deeper. The tunnel curves and opens into a chamber no taller than your shoulders. Light trickles in from a small ceiling vent filtered through layers of moss and clay. And then you see them. Eggs. Not one or two, but a full cluster. Dozens. Glossy and pale, with faint greenish veins under the shell. Each one carefully nestled in plant matter half buried like they're pretending to be rocks. The chamber radiates warmth enough to fog your vision slightly. You breathe through your mouth now, not because of the smell, but because something about this place feels sacred. You don't want to interrupt it, you just want to witness. You hear something above you, a soft scraping. You freeze. Then a low snort. It's the adult perched above, possibly checking on its work. Or on you. Either way, you don't move. There's a moment, just a beat, where everything is still. The air, the dirt, your heartbeat. It's all held together in perfect tension. Then something rustles beneath the moss. A shape. Small, black-eyed, and sneaky, slithers near the eggs. It's not another dinosaur. It's smaller, furred, rat-like. A mammal. Early, twitchy, opportunistic. It's sniffing at the shell edge, tilting its head like a cat testing boundaries. You know where this is going. But the mound builder knows too. In less than 3 seconds, the adult slams its bulk down through a side tunnel and rams its snout into the chamber, sending moss and tiny bones flying. The intruder squeals, bolts for the exit, and vanishes into the outer dark. You don't even have time to move. You're lying flat now, covered in moss that was airborne a heartbeat ago. The adult grunts once. Then again, then turns. It leaves without drama, tail flicking in irritation. You exhale. You also realize something weird. The air in the chamber hasn't changed temperature. Even with the side entrance opened, the design keeps heat inside. This is no accident. This is thermal mastery. Someone's been watching the seasons for thousands of years, adjusting vents, testing materials, improving the curve of the dome year after year until it holds heat like a grandmother holds gossip, tight, warm, and never letting it go. You crawl out slowly, careful not to disturb anything else. Once outside, the sun's higher now. The mound gleams with dampness and steam lifts off it in wisps, like the land itself is breathing. And maybe it is, because these aren't just homes. These are monuments to survival, to instinct, to craftsmanship. Oh, and one odd fact before we leave this moment, the largest single mound created by a living creature isn't by termites or humans. It's a nest mound in Australia, made by a bird called the malleefowl. It can reach over 20 feet in diameter, but that's still baby work compared to what you're seeing here. The adult is back to digging, tail flicking dirt with each pivot. You sit nearby, mesmerized by the rhythm. The world around you keeps moving, calls in the canopy, rustles in the leaves, but here in this little valley of dirt and devotion, time slows to a crawl. And maybe that's the whole point. You wake to the sound of rain, but not the kind that falls from the sky. It's the soft patter of leaves being tugged, shredded, and pressed into the earth. Around you, the builders are at it again, only now they're working in tandem. Not one or two, a dozen. And this time the mound isn't just growing. It's transforming. You climb up onto a nearby ledge, careful not to snap any twigs, and watch. The soil dome has doubled in size since you first arrived. What was once a modest hill is now a towering elephant-sized behemoth of sculpted dirt. And the dinosaurs, the mound makers, aren't just digging anymore. They're layering. One flicks its head, tossing a bundle of wet leaves onto a slope. Another pats it down with its clawed forelimbs like a baker smoothing dough. It's not random. It's architectural. The air smells like churned compost and wet bark. Steam rises again from the surface, curling into the morning fog like ghostly fingers. One mound builder, a particularly large one with a jagged ridge along its back, steps forward and begins compacting the northern slope. It stomps deliberately, its hind legs pushing down with a force that shakes a pine cone loose from a nearby tree. The cone lands at your feet. You pick it up. A gift from gravity. And as you watch, a thought creeps in: these creatures know exactly what they're doing. Here's your historical fact. Fossils in what is now northern Australia have revealed immense nesting sites with soil structures so elaborate paleontologists once mistook them for early human intervention. But nope. Just highly committed dinosaurs building dirt palaces in an age before hammers and egos. And this isn't just function, it's form. From where you're sitting, the mound has deliberate asymmetry. The western edge flattens possibly for access. The top curves gently downward water runoff, while one side includes a leafy overhang. That's right, an awning. You try not to laugh. Apparently, even in prehistory, shade mattered. A pair of juveniles approach the southern face and begin copying the elders, scraping little trenches with clumsy determination. One of them pauses to eat the moss it just uprooted. The other nudges it like, "Bro, this is construction, not brunch." You snort, quietly. Suddenly, a sharp trill rings out across the clearing. All heads rise. One of the elders stomps 3 times in succession. It sounds like a warning, or a signal. A few seconds later, several builders move aside, making way for 2 new arrivals. They're smaller, leaner, but carry themselves with unmistakable presence. Their coloring is darker, and their eyes dart with the alertness of scouts. One of them heads straight to the mound's base and begins clawing at a small ridge, revealing a fresh cavity underneath. You squint. Oh, it's an entrance. You hadn't noticed it before, which is exactly the point. Historians still debate whether these subterranean entrances were a defense strategy or simply a product of better thermal control. Either way, they're hard to see until you're right on top of them, which, if you're a predator looking for eggs, is a problem. You slide down the ledge and approach the edge of the mound. The soil is densely packed but not hardened like clay. Each footstep makes a low crunch as if walking on compressed mulch. You step carefully, hands out feeling for vibration. And there it is again, that heat, just below the surface, radiating like a sunken stove. The smell now leans towards something tangy. Fermentation is in full swing. You drop to your knees and press your ear to the mound. It hums, not literally, but there's an energy to it. A living, breathing thrum of warmth and motion like the pulse of an ancient city. You wonder how many eggs lie inside. Dozens, hundreds. Here's a weird fact while you imagine that in 2015, researchers discovered a termite mound in Brazil, estimated to be over 2,000 years old. It's so large it's visible from space. Again, bugs did that. So what happens when you scale up the blueprints and give them to a dinosaur? You step back and look at the structure again. It's enormous. More than just a nest. This thing is a fortress, a monument, and maybe something more. It sits at the heart of a cleared patch of land, elevated above the marshy lowlands and ringed by flattened ferns and dugout ditches. Rainwater is directed away from the foundation, funneled toward natural runoff trenches. That's not just clever. That's centuries of trial and error encoded into instinct. You hear a whistle, low rising, then clipped. You turn. It's one of the scouts again. It paces at the perimeter, alert, scanning the tree line. You follow its gaze. Something moves. Far across the clearing, beyond the ferns, a dark shape creeps forward. Too low for a dinosaur, too smooth for a rock. You can't see its eyes, but you feel them. Watching, the mound makers notice. A few shuffle closer to the entrance tunnel. One makes a low chuffing sound. The others fall in behind. There's no panic, just preparation. You stay still. The dark shape slinks back. Whatever it was, opportunist predator or curious neighbor, it decides this isn't worth the trouble. Not today. The builders resume. As the sun climbs higher, the mound begins to dry. Steam gives way to haze, and the air is heavy with the scent of warmed earth. You take a seat nearby, cross-legged as if in a place of worship. And in a way you are. You're looking at an ancient marvel engineered without rulers or writing, shaped by claw and instinct and generation after generation of dirt-savvy survivors. No blueprints. No ego. Just the slow, unstoppable desire to build something bigger than yourself. And isn't that the most human thing you've seen all day? You wake in the middle of the night with your face against dirt and the strangest sensation warmth. Not just from the moss beneath you or the blanket of prehistoric humidity, but from below. The mound. It pulses faint but steady like a giant buried heartbeat. So naturally you crawl toward it. This time, you find a new tunnel entrance half obscured by ferns and intentionally tucked beneath a curve in the outer wall. You pause at the edge, sniff the air. It smells like saploam and something else spicy almost, as if cinnamon were left too long near a campfire. You squeeze inside. Instant darkness. No moonlight reaches you here, but you feel your way along the packed walls, each one dense and textured with the marks of claws. The tunnel narrows, then dips. You slide. For a moment, gravity makes the decision for you. You land in a chamber. It is larger than you expected. Tall enough to sit upright, wide enough to turn around. The floor is soft but dry, and the temperature inside is perfect, neither hot nor cold. And at the center, glowing faintly in the bioluminescent light from a thin line of mold, is the hatchery. Dozens of eggs. Perfectly spaced, covered partially in mulch and damp fibers like a carefully tended garden. You lean in close, not touching, never touching, and spotted a faint movement inside one of the shells. A twitch, a pulse, life. There's no adult in the chamber right now. They trust the heat, trust the mound. But that doesn't mean it's unguarded. A faint scrape echoes from the passage behind you. You freeze. It's not an intruder. It's another one of them, another builder shuffling inward to checking the chamber. They stop when they see you. No aggression, no fear, just mutual acknowledgement. You're here. So are they. Let's not ruin the moment. The dinosaur sniffs the air, circles one egg slowly, then nudges a clump of moss into a hollow spot near the edge. That's all. No drama. Then it turns and exits, letting you be. And that's when you notice something strange. Carvings. Not complex. Not intentional in the way human carvings are, but the way the claws have scraped at the chamber walls over generations has left layered patterns. Swirls, gouges, long hash marks. Could it be instinctive or something else? Historians still debate whether the repeated claw etchings found in ancient burrows served purely functional roles, or if they were early signs of something more territorial signatures, even primitive decoration. One thing's clear, this place isn't just survival, it's ritual. You slide your hand across the closest wall and feel the history in it. Like each mark has been left by a parent, a protector, a builder with a purpose older than memory. Now, here's your fun off-topic fact of the night. There's a fungus in modern Brazil called armillaria that lives underground and is considered one of the largest living organisms on Earth, stretching across multiple square miles. If nature can do that quietly under our feet, what else has it done without us ever knowing? You lie down for a while on the chamber floor, not sleeping exactly, just listening. There's a hum, faint and consistent, not from machines, from warmth, from breath, from life. Then something changes, a rumble. Distant. You scramble upward and follow the tunnel back to the surface, emerging into a night thick with tension. The stars are gone. Clouds have moved in fast and heavy. The wind has picked up. And across the clearing, several mound builders are standing still, neck upright, heads tilted toward the sky. That's never good. One of them grunts. Another begins circling the mound. A third starts reinforcing one of the tunnel entrances with fresh layers of soil and leaves. You're not sure what's coming, but they do. You hear it. Thunder. Far off, followed by a low rolling vibration that grows steadily louder. Not just a storm, something more immediate. The kind of sound that makes birds go quiet and mammals vanish. The builders move fast now. One of the juveniles is herded inside by a swipe of a parent's tail. The tallest adult, ridge-backed and scarred, grabs a bundle of debris in its mouth and begins blocking the exposed vent on the top of the mound. You stay low and back away, because whatever this is, you're not part of the blueprint. Minutes pass. Then the rain hits. Not the light, soothing kind, This is hammering sideways rain, the kind that flattens undergrowth and turns pathways into rivers. You duck under a root arch as water floods around your feet, watching as the mound resists it all. The sloped design channels water away in controlled paths. Vents seal shut. Entrances are reinforced. It works. The mound holds. The builders, soaked and blinking, return to the outside only once the rain slows. They stand still for a moment, steam rising from their backs like ancient statues breathing in the aftermath. And here's where you understand the truth. This isn't just a shelter, it's a legacy project. A living structure passed from one generation to the next, maintained, improved, and defended. You've been crawling through something older than most myths and more durable than most monuments. One builder noses into the tunnel, then looks back at the others. They follow. Work resumes. You sit nearby, dripping, quietly amazed. Not bad for a creature with no language, no metal, no blueprint, just dirt, heat, and the kind of instincts that make even extinction feel optional. The sun doesn't so much rise as leak back into the sky. A pale wash of silver seeps through the canopy, casting long shadows across the mound. You're already awake, crouched low beneath a cluster of ferns, watching steam curl up from the still damp soil. The rain has stopped, but the storm left behind a different kind of trouble. You hear it before you see it, a low, throaty hiss. Then another. Not from the builders, from something else. You freeze. So do the mound makers. Several adults stand completely still, their bodies angled toward the tree line. One of them rumbles a short, sharp sound you hadn't heard before. Not the usual work grunt. Not a call, a warning. The hiss grows louder, and then from the underbrush it slinks into view. A predator. Not massive, but vicious-looking. Low-bodied, with a long snout and eyes like obsidian marbles. Its claws are thin, curved, not made for building, but for reaching into places it doesn't belong. Like egg chambers. The mound has what it wants. This isn't new. These builders have seen this before. You inch closer to the side of the mound, pressing your hand to the earth. It's warm again, still steady. Inside, those eggs are relying on centuries of design and exactly none of your help. The predator circles the mound once. Then again. Testing, probing, looking for a weak spot. One of the juveniles peeks out from a side tunnel. Big mistake. The predator lunges, but so does the adult. With shocking speed, the scarred one, the leader, if you had to guess, rams its full weight against the attacker, knocking it sideways into a patch of brambles. The two animals clash in a tumble of claws and snarls. You duck, scrambling away from the fight, heart pounding. There's no blood. Not yet. This is mostly display, noise, intimidation, a territorial dispute with teeth. Historians still debate whether these defensive displays were coordinated group behavior or just individual instincts aligning in a useful way. Either way, the outcome is the same. The predator backs off, tail flicking in irritation, and slinks back into the underbrush, muttering in whatever language scavengers speak. Crisis averted, for now. You exhale slowly and return to the mound's edge. The adults immediately resume their patrol. One scoops soil over a torn section of wall, sealing it. Another noses the juvenile back inside with an almost parental scold. And then you notice the eggs again. You slide into the outer tunnel just far enough to see, and there they are, undisturbed. Still nestled, still glowing faintly in that hazy, mold-lit chamber. Still alive. One of them wiggles. Wait, it wasn't your imagination this time. The movement is real. You see the shell ripple ever so slightly. A tremble. Then a visible crack. You blink, hold your breath. Another twitch. Then quirk. A fine fracture along the side. Delicate but determined. A dark slit opens. Something pushes from within. You stare, mouth slightly open, not even aware of how silent everything's become. The air in the chamber holds still. The builders outside pause. It's like the whole mound is waiting. Then the shell breaks fully and the hatchling tumbles forward, wet. blinking, ugly in the most sacred possible way. It twitches once, twice, then lets out the smallest of squeaks. It echoes through the tunnel like a secret being shared. And now, here's your fact. The structure of dinosaur eggshells varies drastically across species, with some almost leathery, others hard as porcelain. Scientists have found eggs with pores engineered to perfectly balance gas exchange in humid environments like this one. It's not just biology, it's architecture. The hatchling stumbles toward the warmth center drawn by heat and instinct. You inch backward, not wanting to be part of the first thing it sees. That honor belongs to the mound. Outside, another adult appears stepping into the tunnel, slowly, cautiously. It doesn't touch the hatchling, just watches. Then noses a fresh clump of moss closer to the cracked shell and leaves it there like a gift. You exit the tunnel quietly, almost reverently. Back outside, the air is heavier now. The ground is drying. The scent has changed from decay to renewal. You recognize that smell from somewhere. Compost. The builders continue their work as if nothing's happened. But you can feel it. Something's shifted. The mound isn't just a nest anymore. It's a nursery. An odd fact to consider. In some modern birds and reptiles, parents will stay close to the nest but deliberately avoid interaction with hatchlings for a few days, giving them time to gain strength coordination and a sense of the world before social contact. You wonder if the builders are doing something similar. Or maybe they're just giving space. The rest of the day unfolds with a quiet efficiency. More moss, more ferns, more soil, and now every so often another egg cracks. Tiny squeaks echo from within the mound like distant birdsong. You sit beneath a massive tree and let the moment settle around you. Everything in this valley is shaped by instinct and survival, yes, but also by care. Thoughtful, deliberate, dirt-covered care. These dinosaurs didn't just dig holes. They built systems, insulated homes, multi-chambered wonders of natural engineering. They created a legacy of shelter that, even in their absence, would one day harden into fossilized clues for someone to stumble across millions of years later and whisper, "Wait, they did what?" And here you are, whispering exactly that. Midnight comes again, and with it the hush, that deep, heavy quiet that only the oldest places know how to carry. The mound glows in silhouette under the faint silver of the moon, steam curling up from its vent like breath from an invisible beast. You're back in your watching spot, elbows on your knees, chin on your arms, because what else are you going to do, Leap? Not a chance. The hatchlings are stirring, not all at once, just a few. But their muffled peeps echo softly from inside the mound, delicate and rhythmical, like an ancient heartbeat, rediscovering its pace. You imagine their tiny limbs unfolding, eyes sealed snouts, still clumsy with birth. You aren't the only one paying attention. There's a shift in the brush. You go still. Every mound maker does too. And then, moonlight catches a sliver of movement, a thin shape low to the ground, limbs tucked tight. A different kind of predator this time. Sleek, patient, smart. It moves with purpose, head down, eyes locked on the base of the mound. It's not here for drama. It's here for a snack. One of the juveniles is guarding the tunnel mouth. That's brave and dumb. It's tiny. This predator is not. The air is too quiet now. Even the frogs in the gully have stopped their gossip. And then the predator charges. The juvenile squawks, spins, and flees into the mound. You shoot up from your crouch just in time to see the scarred adult barrel from the undergrowth, not charging at the predator, but past it, then wheeling around like it's flanking a chess piece. Another adult follows this one, smaller but faster. Together, they trap the intruder between them, jaws snapping, tails swaying like battering rams. The predator freezes, calculating, and bolts. Wrong choice. The scarred one lunges not to kill, but to send a message. It slams its flank into the predator's ribs, knocking it sideways into a thicket. You hear a yelp, a rustle, then silence. Real silence, like the forest holding its breath again. Odd fact, some modern lizards and birds have been observed performing coordinated group defense, especially during nesting season. This behavior was once considered too advanced for non-mammals. That myth, deader than a predator in the thorns. You slump back down, heart pounding. The scarred adult returns to the mound entrance, checks it, then circles around the mound's far side and disappears into the shadows like a weary knight heading back to their post. The juvenile peeks out again. Still alive, still nervous. It shuffles back into the tunnel. You smile. But then, you hear something else. A low melodic hum. You cock your head. It's coming from inside the mound. Not vocal, not mechanical, but rhythmic. Like air passing through a series of hollow tunnels and emerging in an accidental harmony. The builders are walking within the mound, and as their weight compresses the earth, the layered materials vibrate in different frequencies. The mound is singing. Historians still debate whether this phenomenon called acoustic resonance layering was a happy accident or an intentional feature. Some even believe it had a function soothing the eggs, regulating vibrations. Or maybe it was just beautiful. You close your eyes, letting the hum wrap around you like a weighted blanket. And then just when you think it's safe again, a different kind of threat appears. Not a predator, a tremor. Small at first, just a twitch under your heels. Then another. Then the ground beneath the mound gives the faintest sigh. The builders feel it, all of them. The adults stop moving. They look to the hill to the west. You follow their gaze. Mudslide. A slow one but gaining momentum. Water from the storm has pulled in the high ridges and is now dragging down half a hillside toward the valley. Not fast, not yet, but a creeping disaster. The builders don't run, they act. Two adults begin packing the outer slope with debris, shoving logs and matted leaves against the mound's flank. Another one herds juveniles toward a secondary tunnel, an escape route you hadn't even noticed. A few others disappear inside, likely checking the egg chamber. You just stay put because honestly, what are you going to contribute here? More panic. The mudslide hits the edge of the valley and splashes like a sludgy wave, carving through underbrush and felling a few smaller trees. The builders brace against it. The mound shudders but holds. Barely. You rush to the side and spot a corner of the structure where soil has started to slough off, exposing an underlayer of warm, sticky peat. One of the hatchlings' chambers is just beneath it. You call out. No one hears you. Or maybe they do, and you just sound like an irrelevant bird. Either way, the scarred one is already there, pushing wet soil back into place, tail swinging like a counterbalance. Another adult joins. Together, they rebuild the wall in less than a minute. It's not perfect, but it's safe. And when the final pulse of sludge trickles past and the tremors die down, the mound is still standing, barely dented. You sit down again, trembling a little, and watch steam rise anew from the mud. Another night, another battle. This time, weather and gravity. Tomorrow it might be fire. Or worse, humans. But tonight, for now, the mound survives. The eggs are safe. And the builders, they're already beginning repairs. Because dirt waits for no one. The valley smells like broken roots and silt. You wake up to birds, actual birds, flitting overhead, chittering like nothing happened. But you remember. The mudslide. The near collapse. The dirt in your ears. The hatchling chamber saved by inches. You rise slowly, wiping moss from your face and glance toward the mound. It's still there. Smaller now. A little warped, but standing. You expect rest. You get rebuilding. The mound makers are already at it, moving with a kind of weary urgency, like firefighters patching a levee in the middle of a flood. They work in shifts, one group scooping mud from the slide and compacting it into the south wall, the others patrolling the perimeter, probably sniffing for predators or new damage. One of the juveniles seems lost. It stands in the open, blinking at the chaos, little limbs twitching like it doesn't know where to go. A smaller adult nudges it gently, then walks off with exaggerated purpose. The juvenile copies it badly, but with effort. You chuckle. Nothing like learning on the job when the building's on fire. And speaking of fire, here's your historical fact in several regions. Particularly in late Cretaceous floodplains, fossil evidence suggests that mudslides and sediment floods buried entire nesting colonies. Some species adapted by rebuilding, others just left. These ones, they rebuild, but it's not simple. This isn't just mud. It's a memory collapse, or like, that side of the mound contained layers of packed dung plant fiber, even fossilized shells that were probably passed down season after season. The very identity of the nest lived in its walls, and now it's sludge. You approach carefully and touch a cracked section of the mound. Still warm, not as hot as before, but alive. Inside, the eggs seem unharmed miraculously. A few have hatched tiny legs wobbling across the chamber. Their calls are sharper now, more frequent. One bumps into another and chirps like it's offended. Sibling rivalry is apparently eternal. Back outside, the adult builders are trying to decide what to do. Literally, you swear they're debating. One scratches at the southern slope with a series of short rakes, left, pause, right. Another responds by stomping 3 times, then dragging a log across the mouth of a new vent. There's no sound, no growling or squawking, just movement. Historians still debate whether these creatures communicated with gestures or vibrations, but many agree the combination of tail slaps, claw marks, and foot stamps created a kind of practical language. Not poetry, but blueprints. You watch one particularly weathered builder ridges across its neck, a healed scar down its back pace around the damaged side of the mound. It inspects, pauses, backs up, and finally begins digging. Not to repair, to abandon. It's digging a new mound. You blink. So do the others. There's a long silence broken only by distant tree creaks and the soft flap of bird wings overhead. And then, one by one they follow. Not all, just a few. A splinter group. You realize what's happening. The mound's too damaged to fully restore. Some of the structural integrity has gone layers that took decades to pack, ferment, and compress. These builders have decided to cut their losses and start over. You suddenly feel like you're watching a family drama. Do we stay in the childhood home or move to the new subdivision? Odd fact, prairie dogs in North America have been observed splitting colonies after major floods. The older members stay. The younger ones try again elsewhere. Same dirt, new dreams. You trail the splinter group as they move west, dragging plant matter, moss, and the occasional flat rock in their mouths. They don't go far, just 50 meters or so up a slight incline. Enough to avoid the floodplain. Enough to start fresh. The new site is cleared in less than an hour. By sunset, they've dug a shallow depression and begun shaping the first slope. You turn back to the old mound. The scarred adult is still there along with 3 others. They've sealed most of the exposed egg chamber and reinforced it with ferns and bark slabs. Inside, you can hear the hatchlings. One squeaks like it's being mildly inconvenienced. Another responds like, well, maybe if you didn't sit on my face. You smile. This place still matters, even wounded. You settle between the 2 camps, watching dusk turn the valley lavender. For a moment, nothing moves. Then, a crunch. Not a predator this time, just the dirt under your hand. It's shifting. You pull your fingers back and realize the soil here isn't right. It's lighter, looser, fresh, not part of either mound. You start digging. What you find a few centimeters down is a different layer. Entirely older dirt, packed tighter with tiny shell fragments embedded like seeds in a loaf of bread. Fossilized fragments. This was a mound site before, long before. You sit back stunned. These dinosaurs have been building here for generations. Not just in your story, but across millennia. Rebuilding on the bones of their ancestors. Mounds on mounds. A recursive architecture of memory and mud. And here you thought termites were impressive. You look up. The stars are coming out now, blinking behind slow-moving clouds. Somewhere behind you, a juvenile chirps. Another responds. Both mounds hum. Not loud, not proud, but determined. One old, one new, both still growing. You wake to an argument. Not with words, of course. These dinosaurs don't have language the way we do, but gestures, movements, strategic tail thumps, and dirt flicks. Oh, they're practically composing dissertations. The two mounds are now in full competition. The old mound still smolders with history and hatchlings. The new mound. A bold upstart with fresh angles, faster ventilation, and an almost smug level of symmetry. You can practically feel the energy. Sure, we may not have legacy, but have you seen our drainage? You sit between the two like an awkward cousin at a family reunion, watching two great aunts silently outbake each other. But make no mistake, this is war. And war in the mound builder world looks like dirt being flung very specifically. The original crew, led by the scarred adult, has doubled down. They've extended the southern wing of the original mound into a side chamber, possibly for the growing hatchlings. Meanwhile, the splinter group is working like they've discovered caffeine. The new mound now has two vent tunnels, a water runoff trench, and some kind of moss-lined sunken chamber you swear glows faintly in the right light. And here's your historical fact. Some fossil nesting grounds from the Mesozoic era show clear signs of competitive mound building with overlapping territories and disputed soil layers. One set of footprints was found directly over another nest. Passive-aggressive much. At midday, things escalate. One juvenile, still gangly and clueless, wanders too close to the new mound. It starts sniffing around, poking at a clump of ferns, probably just curious. But a builder from the new site takes offense. With surprising speed, it darts forward, bumping the juvenile with its snout and sending it tumbling backwards. A second adult steps in from the old mound. Posture tense, shoulders up. Uh-oh, they don't fight. Not quite. But they circle each other, tails swaying, claws flexing. This is prehistoric posturing, ritualized, performative, but absolutely serious. You don't breathe. Then the scarred adult appears again, stomping once loud and slow. Everyone freezes. The message is clear. Back to work. And so they do. But the tension lingers. You retreat into the trees, needing perspective, needing space. From a higher vantage point, both mounds are visible, two lumps of ambition and instinct locked in silent competition. Birds pass overhead. A distant roar echoes from the northern ridge. Life indifferent continues. Odd fact. Bowerbirds, a species of bird known for building elaborate stick structures to impress mates, will sabotage rival bowers by stealing decorations or kicking down walls. Nature doesn't just compete, it cheats. You climb down and return to the edge of the new mound. It's different, yes, younger, but you have to admit it's impressive. The angle of the slope reflects sunlight in a way that accelerates internal warmth. The ventilation system hums with more regularity than the old one. And the builders. They're motivated. Each fern, each stick, each hunk of clay is placed with a kind of youthful defiance. It's not just about protection anymore. It's performance. One builder drags what looks like a feather-striped, faded, possibly scavenged from a passing theropod and wedges it into the mound's outer wall, decoration marker. Nobody knows. But it works. Others begin doing the same. Soon the mound has a patchwork of embedded items, bones, fronds, glossy stones. Historians still debate whether these additions had any real function or were purely aesthetic. But it's hard not to see a pattern here. If you want to stand out, you have to make it look like you matter. You make your way back to the old mound and find a different atmosphere entirely. Calmer, more focused. The hatchlings are larger now, chirping loudly from inside the nursery. You watch one try to clamber over a sibling trip over its own tail and roll back into the moss. You stifle a laugh. Inside the chamber, the walls still hold heat. The adults tend to the chamber, carefully replacing moss, packing down loose soil, maintaining a structure that, though weathered, has proven its worth again and again. And here's where you feel it. This isn't just a competition. It's a philosophy. Old mound tradition, function, memory. New mound ambition, design, spectacle. Both valid, both determined to protect life. You sit between them again that evening, legs stretched out, arms folded behind your head, watching the stars blink on overhead, and you realize something. These creatures don't just survive. They don't just build. They innovate. Not with tools, not with fire, but with dirt. With instinct. With generational knowledge passed not in stories, but in soil composition, and the way a tunnel curves just enough to catch the morning light. Maybe intelligence doesn't always look like us. Maybe sometimes it looks like a patch of steaming compost shaped into something that holds the future in a thin-shelled cradle. And maybe the real debate isn't which mound is better, but which one will still be standing when the world changes again. You wake to a sound that's not natural, a rhythm that's too precise, too practiced, like someone tapping bone against stone in a deliberate beat. You sit up slowly, heart doing that half-skip thing it does when the world changes while you're still dreaming. It's coming from the new mound. You creep closer, brush aside some low fronds, and there he is. One dinosaur, alone. Not one of the builders, not one of the patrol guards or tunnel engineers. This one is taller, leaner, sleeker. His coloring is brighter smears of rust red across the shoulders, a faint bluish shimmer along the tail. He's dragging logs, rocks, and bright fronds into a pattern. And he's building. But not like the others. He's not working for survival. He's working for attention. You crouch and watch wide-eyed as he scoops earth into precise little ridges, not for structural support but for symmetry. He arranges sticks in spirals. He places shiny black stones in a neat ring. He paces back and forth inspecting his work, then knocks it over and starts again. This isn't a shelter, it's a stage. And now, here's your historical fact. In some species of extinct dinosaurs, males are suspected to have engaged in elaborate mating displays potentially involving coloration dancing or, yes, even construction. Just like today's bowerbirds, they didn't just need to survive, they needed to impress. The mound he's building won't house hatchlings. It won't ferment mulch. It's too shallow, too delicate. But it's beautiful. The way it rises slightly at the center, the way the colored feathers he's stolen or scavenged flutter in the wind, he's turned dirt into theater. You inch closer. He sees you, pauses, stares, then returns to his work clearly unbothered. Maybe he's used to being watched, or maybe he's hoping for a better audience. Suddenly, you notice two females watching from a distance. They're perched along the edge of the original mound, heads tilted, blinking slowly. Observing. Judging. The builder, if we can call him that, seems to realize. He makes a low, vibrating hum tail, flicking in a slow arc, then circles the structure again. And then he adds the final touch. A bleached jawbone. Large, curved, and placed directly at the peak of his creation. It's not functional. It's not necessary. But it means something. One of the females steps closer. Now, here's your odd fact in some early hominin sites. Jawbones were used decoratively, possibly even symbolically. Across species and epochs, jaws carry stories. Food power, voice, death. This dinosaur, this prehistoric architect just made art out of one. The female sniffs the mound, then turns away. Ouch! The builder sighs or grunts. It's hard to tell. Then, incredibly, he begins again. Different shape this time. Wider base. He even moves the feather accents to the west slope to catch the morning light better. This isn't construction. It's courtship. Historians still debate whether this kind of behavior had actual mating success or was simply an instinctive form of expression. But the logic tracks: if you want to mate, you prove you can provide. Or at least build something nice to show you care. The other builders back at the old mound pretend not to notice. But they do. One juvenile even sneaks over and pokes curiously at the shallow ridges, then scampers away when the builder snorts at it. By late afternoon, the show mound has doubled in complexity. It has a winding trench, a side vent useless but elegant, and an outer layer of bright green moss that the builder keeps fluffing up like it's a pillow. You finally lie back in the grass, letting the sky turn orange above you, listening to the quiet pride of one dinosaur trying to win with architecture. And suddenly it hits you. This isn't competition anymore. It's culture. These animals aren't just surviving, they're displaying, improvising, expressing. One group sticks to tradition, perfecting what already works. Another experiments, flashes feathers, builds showpieces. And this one, he just wants to be noticed. You watch the builder one last time as night rolls in. He's still at it, still rearranging the jawbone, still shaping, still trying. Oddly enough, it reminds you of high school science fairs. Except instead of baking soda volcanoes, it's a compost sculpture topped with a murder souvenir. The stars come out, the air cools, crickets or something like them begin their chorus, and the builder finally lies down beside his workhead resting near the moss. Not asleep, just waiting. You wonder if the females will return. You wonder if it matters. Because even if they don't, this creature still made something that didn't exist yesterday. Not because he had to, but because he could. You're half asleep when the sky flashes white. Not lightning. Worse, the light comes without warning, without shape, just a sudden violent brilliance that lights the entire canopy like someone cracked the world in half. You open your eyes just in time to see the flash fade and the sky change. A second later, the sound hits. A low rolling boom that doesn't end, just expands, swallowing the forest, the hills, the breath in your chest. The earth trembles. A few birds leap from the trees, shrieking as they vanish. Even the insects go quiet. You sit up slowly, heart pounding. Around you, the mound builders are frozen in place, tails, low heads lifted toward the sky. They felt that, and you're pretty sure you just witnessed history's first weather alert. The flash came from the west. Distant, but not distant enough. A meteorite strike, most likely. And here's your historical fact. In the Cretaceous period, meteorites didn't just cause isolated disasters. Some of them fundamentally rewrote the rules of survival, shifting temperatures, darkening skies, turning seasons into weapons. One strike could change everything, and it just did. The air is different already, heavier. You can smell the dust settling, the charged ozone, the far-off tang of burning. But here's what's worse, the builders don't know what's changed yet. They just know something has. They start to move. The old mound is sealed tighter than before. The scarred adult paces the perimeter, sniffing at the air tail, twitching. Over at the new mound, the flashy bachelor from yesterday is gone. Either fled or hiding. His mound, though still adorned with feathers and bones, looks suddenly foolish. It's art in a war zone. You stand the grass cool beneath your feet. All around, the sounds have shifted. There are no predators right now. No calls, just wind. And that eerie, unsettled rustle of leaves too dry for comfort. The first signs come at dawn. A faint haze creeps over the hills. Not fog ash. Fine and floating, clinging to your skin like flour. You wipe your face, and it comes away gray. The mound builders react immediately. One by one, they begin covering the vents. Not sealing completely, just narrowing airflow. They drag in damp, moss-spongy fibers, even fresh dung to insulate. Heat has always been important. But now it's preservation, containment, survival. Odd fact in the aftermath of the Chicxulub impact. The big one, it's believed that Earth's temperature spiked drastically before dropping into a deep global chill. Imagine cooking in an oven for a day, then waking up in a freezer. This valley about to get its first taste. You follow one of the builders as it digs furiously, scooping dry leaves into a side channel. It's working with urgency, now less precise, more instinctual. There's no time for elegance. Even the juveniles feel it. They no longer wander far. They huddle close, chirping, less shoving each other like siblings in a crowded bunker. You crawl into the main mound to check the hatchlings. They're still here, still breathing. But quieter. The chamber smells richer now, fermentation is speeding up. One of the eggs is half-hatched, and the creature inside twitches sluggishly. You gently brush away a loose clump of mulch. The walls feel hot, too hot. The mound wasn't built for this. You crawl back out, coughing from the ash. And that's when the rain starts. Not the kind you know. This is black rain. Heavy droplets of soot and water falling like ink. Each one lands with a plop, turning leaves into sludge. The builders react immediately, dragging fronds over their backs, shielding the entrances with whatever they can find. One adult, probably one of the newer mound members, tries to climb to higher ground but slips and slides in the muck, vanishing behind a ridge. You hear no call, just silence. Even the show mound begins to erode, its carefully arranged feathers drooping, its jawbone toppling over like a forgotten trophy. That builder never returned. You feel it in your bones. This is no longer about strategy or pride. This is about grit, instinct, luck. The sky darkens further, and the black rain thickens. You retreat to the edge of the old mound, pressing your back against its slope. Warmth radiates from within. You close your eyes and try not to shiver. The builders stay close to their creation now. No one roams, no one scavenges. All energy is reserved for fortification, plugging cracks, redirecting runoff, insulating every inch. And yet, even now, a few of them begin to expand. Not outward, downward. They dig. Not deep, not far. Just enough to create buffer space beneath the main chamber, pockets of cooler air, safer passages. You crawl into one and discover that it's already warm. Already working. Historians still debate whether this adaptive digging was a conscious strategy or simple environmental response. But either way, it helped. Odd fact. Desert ants in modern Tunisia construct temporary subchambers when surface temperatures spike, lowering their body heat by crawling between layers of sand. No computers, no graphs, just adaptation. And you're seeing the same thing here. In real time. With claws, night falls, but it's still dim. The ash has stolen the stars. You lie between the two mounds, curled against a thick root, listening to the rainfall, and the builders shift in the dark. They don't make noise. They just dig, just reinforce, just survive. And maybe that's the lesson. Not every monument is meant to stand forever. Some are meant to bend, to break, to teach the next generation how to build it better. When the rain finally stops, it doesn't feel like relief. It feels like a dare. The valley is choked with silence. The trees drip blackened water. The soil, once warm and fragrant, now stinks of charcoal and damp decay. The air is wrong, still too heavy, as if the sky itself is holding its breath. You wake up, sore limbs crusted in ash, the skin under your nails dark with soaked earth. And the mounds changed. The show mound is gone. Just gone. A dark smear remains where feathers once fluttered, and the jawbone that capped it like a crown lies half buried in sludge. Whatever artistry the bachelor builder once chased, the storm has erased it without apology. You don't see him. You don't ask. You turn to the old mound, now the only mound, and find it wounded but standing. A chunk of the eastern slope has collapsed under the weight of the soot-heavy rain, but the inner chambers hold. You press your hand to its side. Warm, just barely. One adult emerges dragging soggy ferns, then immediately retreats. No pausing, no sunbathing, just work. Another builder, one with pale scars along its snout, begins scooping away the ashen sludge that clings to the mound's upper ridge, as if trying to reveal the bones of something noble buried under filth. And then comes the sound. A low, pitiful chirp. Not a hatchling, a juvenile. You spin toward the tree line. There, barely upright, one of the younglings from the splinter group. Covered in soot. Limping. Alone. You cross the clearing fast, slipping once in the muck, then reach it. It doesn't run, just stares at you with wide, filmy eyes. One leg twisted, probably sprained. Its side marked with cuts, possibly from a fall or a tree branch or something worse. You crouch and gently extend your hand, not to touch, but to offer presence. And from the old mound, something shifts. The scarred adult watches from the tunnel entrance, then lumbers forward. You stay still, very still. It approaches the juvenile, slowly, cautiously sniffing, blinking. For a terrifying second, you think it's going to reject the intruder. That maybe instinct is ruthless, but no. It steps forward, nudges the juvenile with its snout, and then waits. The juvenile leans in, presses against its side. Together they walk back. And just like that, the mound accepts another. Here's your historical fact in several avian species. Foster parenting has been observed after natural disasters. Adults take in orphaned chicks, sometimes even from other species. Survival may be biological, but kindness, that's evolution's wild card. Inside the mound, the hatchlings are quieter now. Not from illness, just cold. The heat is fading. You crawl into a side chamber and the change is immediate. The compost layers once steaming are now just warm. The soil, once loose and pliant, now clings like wet clay. Something's wrong. The builders know it too. One begins digging farther into the mound, reaching for deeper soil. Another disappears into the forest, returning minutes later with bundles of dry moss clutched in its jaws. A third starts raking new ventilation grooves to circulate what little warmth remains. But it's not enough. The storm was too much. The air outside is cooler now, ash-choked and heavy. The ecosystem has changed. The mound designed for balance is losing its edge. You exit the tunnel, heart heavy, and that's when the exodus begins. Not dramatic, not panicked, just movement. One by one, the adults begin packing. They dig shallow pits and stuff them with dried ferns. They gather sap-slick bark. They stamp out paths westward, away from the valley, away from the nest they spent seasons building. This isn't defeat, it's strategy. Because here's the odd fact, certain species of crocodiles have been observed abandoning long-used nests after changes in river patterns. They don't mourn, they move, and when the time is right, they build again. You walk with the builders now. Each of them carries something moss eggshell, a rock perhaps significant only to them. Even the hatchlings, those that can walk, stumble forward like drunken tourists blinking in the gray light. The scarred adult is last to leave. It turns once, looking back at the mound. And in that pause, you swear there's memory. Not sadness, not nostalgia, just acknowledgement. Then it follows the others. You do too. You walk until the valley behind you becomes a whisper. The mound's gone. The storm passed. The sky still choked but lightning. And ahead, a clearing, untouched, higher ground, firmer soil. A ridge to the east. Water to the north. The builders fan out, quiet, deliberate, and without ceremony, they begin again. Claws strike soil, moss is packed, tunnels are drawn. And in that moment you understand, the mound was never the legacy. The builders are. You return weeks later. You don't mean to, it just happens. Something in your bones pulls you back toward the old valley. Maybe it's curiosity. Maybe it's guilt. Maybe it's just that quiet voice in the back of your skull whispering, "Go see what remains." You follow the same ridge path, now lined with dead ferns and blackened saplings. The forest feels thinner. The birds are quieter. Even the wind moves differently, less playful, more thoughtful. And then you see it. The mound, or what's left of it, collapsed. Its once smooth slope is now a jagged shell, cracked, tilted, open, like a broken ribcage bleached under the ash-gray sky. No steam rises, no chirps echo. It's silent in the worst way. You step closer. It smells of dried compost and old secrets. The vents are exposed, the tunnels caved in. Something tore through here, whether time may be scavengers, maybe just inevitability. But there's more. You crouch by the western slope and run your fingers through the dirt. And there they are. Bones. Small ones. Hatchlings. Some whole, others crumbled. One rests beside the curved shell of its egg, still curled like it never finished trying. You sit. You don't speak. There's no one to speak to, but you feel them. The ghosts of motion, the soft phantom footfalls of creatures long gone but not forgotten. You imagine them shuffling through these tunnels, shaping walls, stealing moss, raising heads at strange sounds, guarding eggs that would never hatch. And you remember how loud this valley used to be. Odd fact, some termite mounds once abandoned take years to erode. Others become shelter for different animals, mongooses, snakes, even birds. Death doesn't erase the architecture, It just rewrites the lease. You crawl inside what's left of the central chamber. It's collapsed, half filled with damp soil, but one wall still holds. Just barely. You run your hand across it. There's scratches. The same looping claw marks. Hundreds of them. Not just accident, not just friction. Records. You're tracing the last words of creatures who never knew they were writing. And here's your historical debate for today. Some paleontologists argue that patterns like these weren't just functional. That repeated etchings and tunnel shapes show consistency beyond survival. Intent, maybe even tradition. You believe it now. Because here, in this quiet grave of soil and steam, you feel the pulse of memory stronger than anywhere else. You hear a rustle outside. You duck, but it's not a predator. It's a scavenger, small-feathered, twitchy, possibly descended from something that once feared these mounds. It sniffs at the shell fragments, blinks at you, then darts off. You stand and look around. No builders, no hatchlings, just the land scarred but recovering, and the mound broken but remembered. Because even in collapse, it teaches. The vents still drain water, the chamber still insulates, and the design's sloped vented heat retaining still works even in pieces. The architecture is still speaking long after the voices fell silent. And suddenly you notice something. Sprouts, tiny green shoots pushing up through the collapsed soil, ferns, grasses, moss. Life has returned not as tenants, but as caretakers. You laugh quietly, because of course it has. Even in ruin, the mound does what it always did. It holds life. You turn away and walk the path back toward the new settlement. The fresh mound, the living builders, the future. But you glance back one last time. And in that blur of dirt, decay, and memory, you don't just see a ruin. You see a monument, a tomb, a blueprint, a whisper. You arrive at the new mound during dusk. It's different now. Bigger. Not as big as the old one had become, but wiser in shape, flatter, along the base steeper in slope, better drainage. It doesn't try to outdo the past, it learns from it. That's the real difference. You approach slowly, and the smell hits you first. Rich earth, dried moss, a sharp hint of fermenting leaves. Not unpleasant, just alive. The mound hums faintly. A sound you've come to recognize. Not a voice, not even a signal. Just the background rhythm of breath and growth of soil and memory folded together. A juvenile spots you. Older now, steadier on its legs. It lets out a chirp, neither greeting nor warning. Just acknowledgement. You smile. Then you hear them, the sounds of construction. Still happening, always happening. Two adults, one with a sloped back, the other with a jagged stripe across its brow, are packing wet vegetation into a new chamber, their movements synchronized. They don't speak, they just know. Nearby, younger ones dig clumsy test tunnels, most of which collapse within minutes. But they laugh, if you can call that raspy, chirping laughter, and start over. No one scolds, no one stops them. The only real rule here is try again. And here's your historical fact. In some fossilized nesting grounds, paleontologists have found overlapping mounds, one generation's ruins layered beneath the next. Not accidental, not destructive, inherited. These new builders don't just start fresh, they build on failure. You crawl toward the main tunnel and slip inside. It's warmer than before. Controlled, balanced. The compost chambers are compact, the humidity regulated by a clever cross vent carved through an upper slope. The smell of decay is faint now, masked by sap and flowered moss. They've started adding scented plants. Odd fact. Certain modern birds, like the European starling, line their nests with herbs believed to reduce parasites. It's possible dinosaurs did the same. Aromatherapy, Cretaceous style. In the central chamber, a clutch of eggs sits in a perfect spiral. The placement is deliberate, each one spaced evenly like dancers waiting for music. Several are already cracked. A hatchling blinks at you, unsteady, wet-eyed. It squeaks, then hiccups. You nearly cry. Behind you, an adult enters. Not the scarred one, you haven't seen it yet today, but another veteran. It sniffs the chamber, presses a bundle of fern against a crack in the ceiling. then gives you a long sideways glance. Not angry, not afraid, just saying, "This isn't a zoo. Respect the quiet." You nod and crawl back out. Outside, the younglings are now chasing each other through a shallow trench, crashing into walls, falling over, giggling again. One of them tries to balance a stick on its snout, fails. Tries again. You take a seat on a dry log and watch. They're learning. And so are the adults. One has started shaping not just the mound, but the land around it, clearing roots, building a drainage channel, even placing flat stones at certain junctions. Not for decoration, for stability. This isn't a pile of dirt anymore. It's a village. And then finally you see it, the scarred adult, emerging from the far tunnel, slower now, deliberate. Its tail drags slightly, but its eyes are sharp. It walks the perimeter once, stops at a cracked vent, fixes it, then moves to the edge of the clearing and just watches. You follow its gaze, not at the sky, not at danger, at the younglings. It's watching them fail, watching them figure it out. There's no intervention, just trust. And here's your open academic debate. Some argue that complex parenting in dinosaurs was an exception, not the rule. Others believe species like these with extended juvenile dependence and communal nesting were far more common. The fossil record isn't clear. But this feels like parenting. You lie back in the grass. The mound looms beside you, still steaming, still growing. The stars blink through ash-thinned clouds. Somewhere above, a comet tail glows, trailing across the night sky like a scar of light. The hatchlings inside will never know the old mound. They'll never hear its hum, but they'll hear this one. And maybe in time they'll build their own. Tonight is different. Not stormy, not calm, just charged. The air holds a kind of stillness you recognize, like the pause between a breath and a word. Something's about to shift. You lie beside the new mound, chin resting on crossed arms, watching the builders as they move like clockwork. A pattern has emerged. Some work the tunnels, others the vents. A few gather moss by the water's edge. They rotate without discussion. This is no longer a construction site. It's a civilization. Even the juveniles have grown into rhythm. One drags a thick vine toward the mound and tries to pack it into the wall. It slips. Flops. Another nudges it, then shows how to fold it in half before wedging it. They work together. You can't help it. You whisper, "Good job." They ignore you. Appropriate. You stretch your back and scan the area. Beyond the mound, the land has started to change. Saplings sprout where soot once choked the roots. The stream is cleaner now, no longer coated with gray. Ferns wave gently in the breeze like they never remembered dying. Even the insects are back. You swat a buzzing one from your ear. It probably doesn't appreciate your presence either. And here's your historical fact after major extinction events. Recovery can take thousands, even millions of years, but pockets of survival start quickly. One mound, one burrow, one stream. You realize what you're witnessing isn't just persistence, it's rebirth. From the top of the mound, the scarred adult watches. But it isn't working tonight. It's still. It stands at the peak like a statue, bigger than anything below, older, quieter, made of memory and mud. Its tail hangs low, but its eyes sweep the horizon with purpose. You've seen this before. It's preparing. You creep toward the slope of the mound, keeping low, respectful. As you near the top, something shifts in your gut. The mound feels different, not unfinished, not in need of more. Final. It's reached its peak. The top is flattened, ringed with layered debris stones, feathers, bone, not decorative, not practical, symbolic. A shrine. That's what they've made. The outer vents have stopped hissing. The new tunnels are sealed. The heat remains, but the composting has slowed. Inside, the hatchlings have been moved to lower chambers. You can barely hear them anymore. They are safe. You look around and see the others gathering. Quietly, they encircle the base of the mound. No movement, no digging, just presence. A stillness you've never seen in them before. as if the very act of not moving carries its own weight. And here's your odd fact: elephants, when passing bones of their own dead, often pause touching, observing, sometimes even staying for long periods. There's no science that fully explains this, just feeling. You get the sense these builders feel something too. You take your place beside the scarred adult. It doesn't look at you, but it doesn't make you leave either. And so you sit, side by side under the stars at the edge of the mound's highest point, breathing the last steam rising from the soil. The scent is sweeter now, less rot, more earth. Final layers of moss have hardened into a casing. Wind whistles through a small crack, creating a soft, airy tone like a flute someone forgot to put down. You listen, because you know what's coming. This is the final tower, not built for heat or safety or speed, built to remember. Historians still debate whether ancient animals had concepts of memory or ritual, but sometimes you don't need fossils to feel what's obvious. This mound isn't just functional anymore. It's a monument. The scarred adult finally moves. Slowly, carefully, it steps off the top of the mound and joins the others. They don't make sound. They don't turn. They just begin walking away. You want to follow, but you don't. Not yet. You stand alone at the peak wind, catching the edges of the mound, stars watching silently above. You place your hand on the earth. Still warm, still breathing, still remembering. Morning doesn't come with birdsong. It comes with wind, sharp, restless, and hollow, threading through the trees like a ghost you can't quite see, tugging at leaves, slipping into cracks, and yes, whistling through the vents of the now empty mound. You're still there. You didn't sleep. You remained at the top of the final tower, knees hugged to your chest, eyes blinking slowly as the sky lightened, from ink to steel to a dull, aching blue. The builders are gone. They left in silence the night before, like smoke drifting from a fire that chose not to burn anymore. And now, it's just you. You descend from the mound, sliding down its curved flank. The earth here is dry but solid, pressed into place by claws and time and repetition. The warmth has faded. The steam no longer rises. The chamber vents are sealed. There are no hatchling sounds, no footfalls, no grunts from tunnel watchers. Just wind. It enters through a small fracture in the upper chamber and travels downward, curling through the tunnels, brushing past the compost walls. It doesn't move dust. It doesn't disturb. It just sings. A long, low, breathy hum that spills back out into the world like a lullaby the earth forgot it knew. And that's the final gift. Not protection, not even survival. Memory. This mound, abandoned, sealed, and quiet, has become a song. Not one made for ears, but for those who remember. You crouch at the edge of the central tunnel, unsure if you should enter. The builders may be gone, but this still feels like trespass, like stepping into a church after the congregation has vanished. Still, you move forward, slowly. Inside, the walls are cool now. The mulch has settled. The air is heavier. You reach the central chamber and sit where the eggs once nested, where the hatchlings once squeaked, where the builders once circled in perfect rhythm. And here's your last historical fact. The oldest preserved nests in the fossil record are not from birds or mammals, but from dinosaurs. Creatures we once believed were incapable of care. Creatures that left behind not just bones, but homes. You run your fingers across the packed soil beneath you. It's smooth, still marked with the traces of claws, tiny ones and massive ones alike. You wonder how long it will last before time unravels it. Before roots burrow in, before water floods it, before sediment turns it to stone. Maybe 100 years, maybe 1,000,000. Maybe someone else, something else will find it someday and ask the same questions you did. Who built this? Why? What did it mean? Outside, the wind shifts again, and the sun finally cracks through the clouds. The light hits the mound at an angle you've never seen before, and for a moment it glows. Not with fire, not with heat, with history. You rise. Step outside. Take one last look at the slope, the entrance, the ring of bones placed just so around the highest peak. Then you turn and begin to walk. No path, no map, just instinct. Because the builders are out there moving, shaping, digging, teaching, surviving. And maybe if you walk long enough, you'll find the next mound. Maybe smaller, maybe different, but still humming with the same ancient rhythm. The rhythm of claws on dirt, of warmth inside walls, of wind through empty halls. And that sound, that soft hum will never leave you. Not even now. Not even after everything. Not even when the mound is gone. The story of the mound builders begins with a whisper in the dirt, prehistoric dinosaurs with massive claws and complex instincts, constructing immense soil structures that served as thermal incubators, shelters, and legacies. You journeyed through their world in second person, watching the rhythm of dirt and duty unfold. The carving of tunnels, the tender tending of eggs, the fierce defense against predators and flood. You saw the mound not as a simple nest, but as a monument, a culmination of inherited knowledge and instinctive engineering made sacred through action. The builders competed, faltered, adapted. You witnessed a splinter group form a rival mound. You watched as a bachelor sculpted a courtship tower, now forgotten under soot. You felt the sting of the black rain, the aftermath of a distant meteorite, the reshaping of the world, and how even then the builders adjusted. Their final creation. The last mound became more than survival. It became memory, a tower not built for the present but for what comes after. When they leave behind more than soil. They leave behind sound, silence, and structure. A whisper of what was. In the end, as wind whistles through hollow vents and no claws thump the floor, you understand it was never just about the mound. It was always about them, the hands that shaped it, the instincts that carried it forward, and the courage to leave it behind.